The story begins when a bomb is discovered at a construction site in Paddington Basin. Fearing for the safety of his workers, the foreman wastes no time and immediately calls the police so the explosive device can be secured before anyone gets hurt. The bomb disposal team is led by Major Will, a military officer responsible for handling explosive threats. After receiving a report from his subordinate, a female sergeant, Will immediately orders his team to head to the scene. He also instructs the police to evacuate everyone in the surrounding area as quickly as possible to ensure the site is completely cleared before the operation begins. Meanwhile, the police, led by an officer named Susan, quickly secure the area. They go door to door, checking every apartment and urging residents to evacuate immediately for their own safety. These precautions are taken in case the bomb detonates unexpectedly, putting everyone nearby at risk. At apartment 83, one of the police officers attempts to check inside. However, with the door locked and no one responding, the officer assumes the unit is empty. Believing no one is inside, they move on and continue evacuating the remaining residents in the building. One of the residents, Rashim, follows the police's instructions and leaves the building with his parents. As they make their way to a safer location, his mother can't stop complaining, worried that the evacuation will cause them to miss their flight, which is only a few hours away in Shortly afterward, Will arrives at the scene where he's greeted by the foreman. Without wasting any time, he's taken to a higher observation point overlooking the site to assess the bomb's location. From there, they can safely make an initial evaluation, since getting too close to the explosive could be extremely dangerous if it were to activate unexpectedly.
Thanks, Gary. You can go now.
After receiving permission to use the foreman's cabin as an observation point, Will instructs Corporal Martin to pump the water out of the flooded area where the bomb is located. This will give the team a clearer view of the device and make the disposal process much easier. Once everything is in place, Will gathers his entire team, including Susan, to brief them on the operation. Under the plan, the bomb disposal unit will be responsible for examining and defusing the explosive, while the police will monitor the situation from a safe distance, secure the perimeter, and cut the power supply until the bomb has been safely neutralized. With everyone clear on their responsibilities, the operation begins immediately to avoid wasting any valuable time. The police deploy a drone to monitor the area from above, while the bomb disposal team starts a thorough inspection of the device. They carefully examine the type of bomb, its triggering mechanism, power source, and overall condition. Based on their findings, they will determine whether the bomb can be safely defused or if it must be detonated on site. Meanwhile, inside apartment 83, 5 individuals emerge wearing sewer maintenance uniforms. They make their way down to the building's storage area where they begin breaking through one of the walls, while one of them stays behind to keep watch and monitor the surroundings. At the same time, Susan notices something moving on the street, even though the entire area is supposed to have been evacuated. Suspecting that someone may have been left behind, she immediately redirects the drone for a closer look. But as the live footage comes into view, she realizes that
it's a fucking fox.
It turns out that what caught Susan's attention wasn't a person left behind, but simply a fox wandering through the evacuated area. After confirming there was no threat, she resumes monitoring the scene with the drone. At the same time, Will instructs Martin to drain the remaining water surrounding the bomb. He also tells one of his team members to bring over a device called a box stopper, which is designed to temporarily pause the bomb's countdown timer, giving the disposal team more time to work safely. While the police and the bomb disposal unit remain focused on their operation, the group disguised as sewer maintenance workers continues carrying out its mission inside the apartment's storage room. The operation is led by a man named X, while Carales occasionally joins in to help break through the wall after making sure the situation outside remains calm and under control. Driven by a gut feeling that something isn't right, Susan orders several officers to take another look around the apartment complex where the 5 disguised workers are operating. Although she has no evidence and no idea they're hiding there, her instincts tell her that something about the situation doesn't add up. As the police begin approaching, Carales quickly signals the others to stop what they're doing. They pretend to be on a break until the officers leave the area, then quietly resume their work as if nothing had happened. The clock stopper he requested earlier. As soon as the device arrives, he instructs Sharon to contact Susan and have all police officers still patrolling the area move back to a safe distance. The bomb disposal team is about to begin working on the explosive, and minimizing the number of people nearby is essential. After conducting a thorough inspection, Will and his team determine that the device is an unexploded bomb dating back to World War II. Despite its age, its deteriorated condition actually makes it far more dangerous to defuse. To make matters worse, they discover that it is equipped with two separate timing mechanisms, making the operation significantly more challenging than handling a standard bomb. Using a specialized electronic stethoscope, Will listens carefully to the bomb's internal mechanism. The steady ticking confirms that the timer is still running, meaning the device remains active and could detonate at any moment. Without wasting a second, Will quickly reattaches the clock stopper to one of the bomb's timing mechanisms. As soon as it's in place, he and the rest of the team retreat to a safe distance, preparing for the possibility of an explosion. A few moments later, the operation delivers the result they were hoping for. The clock stopper successfully freezes one of the bomb's timers, preventing an immediate detonation. Relieved that the first stage has gone according to plan, Will even jokes with the police, saying they owe his team a pizza to celebrate the successful start of the operation. While Will and several members of the team work through contingency plans in case the bomb explodes, the others take the opportunity to enjoy the pizza. Meanwhile, the group disguised as sewer maintenance workers finishes cutting two large openings in the wall and continues creating a passage into another section of the building. Despite the brief moment of calm, Martin keeps his attention fixed on the bomb. Something about it doesn't seem right. In his opinion, a device that has supposedly been buried for nearly 80 years should show clear signs of age and corrosion. Instead, the bomb appears to be in remarkably good condition. Its exterior is almost completely free of rust, making it look as though it had been manufactured only a few years earlier. Just as Martin is about to share his discovery with Will, the bomb's timer suddenly starts ticking again. The countdown has resumed, confirming that the device is active once more and could detonate at any moment. With no better option available, Will decides to put the backup plan into action. He begins drilling into the bomb's firing mechanism so he can inject a specialized compound designed to clog its internal components, reducing the risk of an explosion. Meanwhile, Susan receives more than just an alarming update from the bomb disposal team. The police's thermal cameras also detect two separate heat signatures in different parts of the building. Fearing that someone may have been left behind during the evacuation, Susan immediately orders the sergeant to stop what she's doing and investigate the thermal readings without delay. Sensing that something has changed, Will immediately asks why the drilling has been stopped. Susan explains that she's planning to send several officers back into the area, worried that some residents may not have been evacuated. While everyone's attention remains fixed on the bomb, X and his crew take advantage of the hole they've broken through the wall and slip into the room on the other side. To their surprise, it leads directly into a high-security bank vault filled with safe deposit boxes containing valuable belongings. It's at this moment that their true identities are revealed. They're a gang of thieves who carefully orchestrated the entire operation to break into the vault and empty the deposit boxes. As the rest of the crew begins forcing open box after box, Carales focuses exclusively on a single, safe deposit box. His complete lack of interest in the others immediately catches X's attention, making him suspect that Carales knows something extraordinarily valuable is hidden inside that particular box. After leaving the vault and returning to keep watch outside, Carales spots two police officers trying to enter the building where the operation is taking place. However, with the main entrance locked, the officers are forced to look for another way inside. Meanwhile, Will notices that Martin is still standing near the bomb, despite being ordered to take cover earlier. Frustrated, Will scolds him for taking an unnecessary risk with his life. He reminds Martin that no mission is worth dying for and urges him to be more careful from now on. At the same time, the bomb remains active, making Susan increasingly anxious, especially with several police officers still in the area. To minimize the risk if the device detonates, she orders all of her officers to withdraw beyond the danger zone, allowing Will and the bomb disposal team to resume their work without putting anyone else at unnecessary risk.
Alpha Hotel 32, exit the cordon as soon as you've completed your check.
Just as they are about to leave the area, the two police officers spot Carales near the building. The moment he realizes he's been seen, Carales turns and runs, prompting the officers to chase after him. When Will is informed that the police have encountered a suspicious individual who ignored their commands, he realizes they're running out of time. Sensing that the situation is rapidly spiraling out of control, he immediately orders every member of his team to get into position. His instincts tell him that something terrible is about to happen. Moments later, Will's fears are confirmed. The bomb detonates, sending a massive blast wave through the area and throwing the entire scene into chaos. Will immediately checks on his team, calling for a head count to make sure everyone has survived the explosion. Meanwhile, the gang of thieves, who were operating not far from the blast site, appears to have escaped unharmed. Realizing they have little time left, they move on to the next phase of their plan. The group splits into two teams. Carales and one of his partners prepare to use a drone to transport the stolen valuables, while X heads to a separate location to receive the delivery. Once X reaches the designated drop-off point, Carales launches the drone carrying the stolen loot. The delivery runs into trouble when the drone's controller suddenly begins malfunctioning. But behind the scenes, Carales is secretly keeping something from the rest of the crew, a secret that no one else knows. Meanwhile, one of the two police officers who had been chasing Carales is seriously injured after being thrown by the force of the explosion. While waiting for paramedics and backup to arrive, the other officer continues searching the area, hoping to determine whether the suspects are still nearby. By then, however, Carales and his partner have already made it to the main road and escaped just moments before additional police units arrive. The pursuit continues as Carales and his partner duck into a storm drain to evade capture. The police stay close behind, refusing to give up the chase. To throw the officers off their trail, the two men squeeze into a narrow gap inside the tunnel and remain hidden there until it's safe to move again. Unable to reach Carales any longer, X decides to leave him behind and move forward with the plan after confirming that the stolen package has been delivered safely. Meanwhile, in the aftermath of the explosion, Martin once again shares his suspicions with Will. He urges him to have the bomb residue analyzed, convinced that the device wasn't actually a World War II bomb. Based on what he observed, its condition was simply too well preserved for something that was supposedly buried for decades. After hearing Martin's concerns repeatedly, and with the sergeant backing him up, Will finally agrees. He asks Susan to deploy a forensic team to examine the explosive residue. They want to determine the bomb's true origin, as they're becoming increasingly convinced that it isn't a World War II explosive after all. Thanks, we'll take it, Mom, yeah. With Will's immediate task temporarily over, a new problem quickly emerges. Susan receives a report from an officer who has arrived at the storage room where Carales and his crew had broken through the wall. After inspecting the scene, the police confirm that it was part of a carefully planned robbery. Without wasting any time, Susan orders all available officers to seal off every route out of the city. Checkpoints are set up and reinforced across multiple locations in the hope that the suspects haven't made it too far. Meanwhile, after successfully escaping the pursuit, Carales contacts X and asks to be picked up at a different location. Once reunited, they transfer all of the stolen valuables into the back of their vehicle to avoid attracting attention when passing through the police checkpoints. Not long afterward, they arrive at one of the heavily guarded checkpoints. Although they're worried their cover might be blown, the inspection reveals nothing suspicious. The officers wave them through, allowing them to continue on their way. A few minutes after Carales' vehicle passes through the checkpoint, one of the officers receives a message in the police WhatsApp group containing details about the robbers' uniforms. As soon as he realizes the description matches the people he has just waved through, he immediately reports that the suspects likely escaped in the same vehicle, wearing uniforms bearing the company's logo. Although the information is quickly relayed to every unit, the thieves are already several steps ahead. By the time the alert goes out, they'd long since left the area, leaving the police with no chance to catch. After driving for quite some time, the group finally arrives at an isolated house where they stop to inspect everything they stole. X orders everyone to gather the clothes, equipment, and any other items used during the robbery so they can be burned, eliminating any evidence that could link them to the crime. When it's time to divide the loot, Carales reveals several rough diamonds that turn out to be worth a fortune. Once cut and polished, they're estimated to be worth tens of millions of dollars. Seeing how valuable they are, X, as the leader of the group, insists that the diamonds be divided equally among everyone, just as they had agreed before the heist.
Even split, yeah.
After agreeing to X's proposal, Carales asks for permission to contact the fence, who is supposed to buy their stolen loot. Instead of reassuring the others, the request only deepens their suspicions, making them believe that Carales has been hiding something from the crew all along. The heated argument comes to an abrupt end when a group of armed men suddenly storms in. Within moments, they overpower every member of the gang, including X, and lock them inside a warehouse. It is then revealed that the gunmen are actually Carales' own men. Carales has secretly been the mastermind and the financier behind the entire heist from the very beginning. Meanwhile, in response to the police's request for a forensic investigation, a general arrives at the scene to assess the situation. He is visibly frustrated, believing that the report about the bomb's suspicious origin should have been submitted much earlier. Will explains that his top priority at the time was dealing with a live bomb that could have exploded at any moment. In his view, neutralizing the immediate threat was far more important than reporting a suspicion that was not yet supported by solid evidence. During the meeting, the conversation briefly turns to a past mission in which Will lost several members of his team in a deadly explosion. Remembering that incident, the general reminds him to follow protocol at all times and not to let past trauma or personal feelings influence the decisions he makes in the field. Meanwhile, as Rahim and his parents attempt to return to their apartment, they're stopped by the police and asked to verify where they live. Since Rahim is a resident of the building at the center of the investigation, the officers question him as part of their inquiry. During the interview, the police discover that Rahim's storage unit had been used by the robbery crew to stash their equipment and as the starting point for breaking through the wall into the bank vault. Realizing how serious the situation has become, Rahim's parents urge him to tell the police everything, including the fact that he had previously given someone access to the key that the robbers later used. Rahim.
Did they keep the keys?
Yeah. Yeah, they kept the keys.
To keep the situation from becoming even more complicated, Rahim finally tells the police what really happened. He explains that sometime earlier, two men claiming to be sewer maintenance workers knocked on his door and asked for the key to his storage unit. Since they were wearing official uniforms and carrying what appeared to be legitimate paperwork, Rahim, an immigrant unfamiliar with the procedures, had no reason to suspect them and handed over the key. After finishing the interview with Rahim and his family, Susan receives another report, confirming that the truck used by the robbers has successfully escaped the police pursuit. Hoping to prevent further panic among the residents, she decides to remove the police cordon and allows everyone to return to their homes. Meanwhile, with the operation officially over, Will carries out a tradition he always shares with his team. He gathers everyone for a drink to honor the mission they have completed. Unlike the others, however, Will doesn't take a sip. Instead, he pours his drink onto the ground as a quiet tribute to the teammates he lost in the line of duty.
Yeah, well done, mate.
After leading the scene, Will returns home to clean up the minor injuries he suffered from the explosion. Not long after finishing his shower, he receives a call from headquarters. The newly released forensic report reveals a shocking truth. The bomb wasn't a World War II relic after all. It came from their own military stockpile. Meanwhile, after the police finish questioning him, Rahim steps out onto his apartment balcony. At first, it looks like he's simply there to smoke and clear his head. But his real purpose is to retrieve a package that Carales had deliberately left behind for him. The discovery raises a major question. What exactly is the connection between Carales and Rahim? Elsewhere, after the stolen loot has been counted, Ludo, one of Carales' associates, asks for a share of the diamonds. Carales immediately refuses, reminding him that it goes against the agreement they made from the beginning. Under their deal, Ludo is entitled to everything they stole except the diamonds, which belong exclusively to Carales.
No, 50%! No, 50%!
Unable to accept Carales' explanation, Ludo immediately smashes one of the diamonds he was given. The stone shatters into tiny fragments, and he instantly realizes it's nothing more than a fake. Furious after discovering he'd been deceived, Ludo demands to know where the real diamonds are. He even threatens to kill Carales if he refuses to reveal their location. When Carales still refuses to talk, Ludo decides to take him back to his own hideout for further interrogation. During the drive, Carales is locked inside the trunk of the car to make sure he has no chance of escaping. Not long after the group leaves, X, who had been tied up, begins struggling to free himself. Once he manages to untie his hands, he immediately prepares to go after Carales, using a tracking device he had secretly attached to Carales' clothing earlier. Driving at full speed, X finally catches up to Ludo's vehicle and cuts it off. A fierce gunfight breaks out, and X eventually takes down Ludo and all of his men. He then opens the trunk and pulls Carales out, who immediately begs for his life. But X is beyond reason. Enraged by Carales' betrayal, he slips a plastic bag over his head, intending to suffocate him slowly. Just as the situation reaches its breaking point, Will suddenly appears and rescues Carales. Without saying much, Carales quickly leaves the scene, while Will heads off in the opposite direction. Their brief encounter raises an even bigger question. What exactly is the connection between the two of them? Meanwhile, back at police headquarters, Susan receives an update that surveillance footage has captured a clear image of Carales before he could leave the country. Acting on the new lead, she immediately orders officers to tighten security across all major transportation hubs, including bus terminals, train stations, and airports, in an effort to capture Carales as quickly as possible. Not long afterward, Martin arrives in response to Susan's request for help identifying a suspect. Susan shows him a photo of Carales and asks if he has ever seen the man before. Instead of focusing on Carales, however, Martin notices someone else in the picture, Raheem and his family. That's when it's revealed that they are the same family Will had once helped evacuate from Afghanistan. The discovery convinces Susan that something far bigger is going on. She immediately orders officers to locate and detain 3 people, Raheem, Will, and Carales. Unfortunately, the order comes too late. By then, all 3 have already left the city on separate flights, each heading to a different destination. Without wasting a moment, Susan heads straight to Will's house, hoping to get some answers. But by the time she arrives, Will is already gone. Instead, the police discover several bomb components, along with a thick manual on explosive construction, further fueling their suspicions that Will may be involved. Sometime later, the story shifts to the city of Marrakesh. There, the 3 people Susan has been searching for all along, Raheem, Carales, and Will, are finally seen together. Their meeting isn't a reunion or a coincidence. They're there to finalize the sale of the stolen diamonds, revealing that everything that happened up to this point was actually part of a carefully orchestrated plan they had devised together from the very beginning. Without wasting any time, Raheem leads Will and Carales to meet the buyer who has agreed to purchase the diamonds. They settle on a price that is not only highly profitable, but also divides perfectly among the 3 of them. Once the deal is complete, and the money has been split according to their agreement, the trio decides to end their partnership. They promise never to cross paths again, then go their separate ways, each leaving with their share of the fortune. The story then flashes back to Afghanistan 10 years earlier. At the time, a younger Carales worked at a diamond mine. One day, however, he was captured by his employer and taken away to be executed. Around the same time, Will and Raheem had already become well acquainted, as Raheem was a local resident who frequently interacted with him. Meanwhile, Will was serving as a soldier, a military operation against the armed militants terrorizing the region where Raheem lived. While out on patrol together, Will and Raheem spot an enemy vehicle approaching in the distance. Just as Will is about to raise his weapon, he unknowingly steps on a buried improvised explosive device, IED. Frozen in place, he realizes that even the slightest movement could trigger a deadly explosion. Moments later, the vehicle transporting Carales arrives in the middle of the conflict and is immediately caught in a hail of gunfire as armed militants exchange fire with government forces in the area. As the firefight rages on, Carales seizes the opportunity to escape and eventually reaches Will and Raheim's position. In exchange for helping him escape the men from the diamond mine, Will asks Carales to cut the detonator wire connected to the improvised explosive device beneath his foot. While Carales carefully works on the bomb, Will stays behind, providing cover and keeping the enemy at bay. Their plan finally succeeds. Carales cuts the detonator wire, disabling the IED, and soon afterward, the remaining enemy fighters are eliminated. Just as the three of them begin to breathe a sigh of relief and celebrate their narrow escape, the situation takes another terrifying turn. Without warning, the safety pin on one of the explosives suddenly comes loose, signaling the emergence of a new and even more dangerous threat.